Welcome to the Dream Tank. These are a few guidelines as you join us on this immersive experience into the Dream Tank archives of the memories of Abolition Day. This entire scenario is a simulation into the dreams of the archives from ancestral abundance, from ancestral futures, present and past, of a time where we are removed from the walls, bars, and prisons that keep our dreams locked up, locked down, and locked out of abundance. So this is an opportunity to free our dreams in the most abundant way through our imaginations and through ancestral memories of this Abolition Day. To guide us, you will also be engaged in a quantum reality that's in beta prototype form. So we're going to ask that you have a couple of tools that will help you in this experience. This will be engaged in an augmented reality for your time and dimension. You just need to follow these quick, easy steps. First, have two smart devices ready for this presentation. One for the screen, which is how you're seeing us right now, and another one that you can have for an app that will assist you in this quantum reality submersion and immersion. So if you need to do so now, grab a device, another smart device for the app, if you haven't already downloaded the Artivive app. You can download the Artivive app at artivive.com, or you could use your smartphone to click on the QR code that's presented on the screen now. So again, you could go to artivive.com, or you can download Artivive for free on the QR code that should take you directly to the website. If you have any questions about that, we'll place it in the chat now. Usually I tell people that you wouldn't be missing out on much if you don't choose the augmented reality pathway, but this time I guarantee you would want to see all the dreams that are being unlocked through augmented and quantum reality immersion. So if you haven't done so already, go to artivive.com on your smartphone to download the Artivive app now, and you will be cued to open the Artivive app when you see a prompt on the screen. You open the Artivive app on your phone and then view the art on the screen as prompted. Here's a quick example of what you may see. As you can see, there's a screen device for the presentation and the dream archives, and another device for Artivive as you open it up. And you might see another level of the dream emerge in front of you, along with sound and along with audio and visuals. This is an invitation to try it out. Whenever you see the Wakanda Dream Lab mask, you know that you are being invited by the Dream Tank to engage in an augmented reality feature. You can try it out now by opening up the app on your phone and looking at the queue for when you need to use the Artivive app. You should be seeing a mask against a red background at the moment, but see what happens when you engage with the Artivive quantum reality transmission, and you should see the dream begin to emerge in front of you. You will be engaged in a series of dreams and stories from dream archivists who've been entrusted with these stories to see what unfolds and see how the story emerges in little teaser trailers of these ancestral memories of Abolition Day. You'll have other opportunities to use the Artivive app. So if you're still in the process of downloading and looking at the screen test run, just know that there will be a few more opportunities to do so. But with that, we will continue on with the Dream Tank experience. This is Black Freedom Beyond Borders, Memories of Abolition Day. This is an invitation into a portal. That abolition itself is a portal for freedom, for imagination, for abundant possibilities when we remove ourselves from the context of what it means to be pleased to the conversation of what it means to be abundantly free and abundantly in our power and abundantly with each other to discover what it means to be safe, to be free, to be together. So abolition is a portal.
I believe. I believe that we. I believe that we. I believe that we will. I believe that we will. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will.
As a speculative cultural strategist, I've dreamed for this moment. We've been invited to prototype a world-building immersive simulation in quantum reality known as the Dream Tank. It's a speculative visualing simulator that conjures the possibilities of post-abolition freedom, joy, and justice across the territories of the liberated diaspora. I'm very appreciative that you're joining us in this Dream Tank experience. Who would have thought that we would be in this moment? A full 7-generation cycle since the places that would become known as the liberated territories started reclaiming their sovereignty and freedom. We celebrate the culmination of this movement on what is collectively commemorated as Abolition Day, the day when the final vestiges and memories of policing and prisons and surveillance states became but the memory of the past. And yet, there's still much to heal and restore from and learn from as we move forward. The Dream Tank is a repository of ancestral memories going back to 7 generations. It's a collective freedom dream archives uploaded into this tank that was collected by the Truth and Reparations Commission of the Liberated Territories. Using intergenerational dreams as data, the Dream Tank's quantum algorithm interprets the memory data in the form of simulated dreams, prayers, songs, and stories. Because it's still in prototype mode, much of this will be experimental. So you will still need that additional viewing device with the Archive app to be able to engage in the immersive dream simulator. For all the complexities of quantum reality, we actually made the search engine for predictive simulations pretty simple. You'll be assisted by other augmented reality generated avatars who will serve as your Dream Tank archivists. Collectively, we are known as the Dream Jolly. Just ask the Dream Jolly a 7-word question about Abolition Day in order to activate the dream archives. They will conjure the ancestral dreams through spoken stories, and the immersive dream simulator through the Archive app will provide a portal into those dreamscapes. This is a call to dream. You're being entrusted with generational truths, traumas, and joys. You're being gifted with abolitionist artifacts and stories. You're being invited with the permission to dream new freedom dreams. All the fallen peaceful, going back to our pre-abolition ancestors, have entrusted us with their wildest freedom dreams. So let's make the impossible irresistible. Are you ready for the Dream Tank? If you are, let me know you're ready in the chat feature. For this first simulation, we're all going to join together in getting a test run to make sure that the Dream Tank is synchronizing across time, space, and dimension with all of us together. So I'm going to invite you to think of your most irresistible freedom dream. Imagine ourselves 7 generations into the future. Imagine ourselves 7 generations in the past. Imagine the 7 generations who are with us right now. What is their most irresistible freedom dream? And how is abolition a portal to bring us into its full fruition? With that intention, take a breath in and exhale. Take another deep breath, focusing on that intention, and exhale again. And on this third deep breath, I want you to imagine that irresistible freedom dream as a seed that takes us deep into the future where we can experience this freedom dream in its full fruition. Breathe in and exhale.
My name is Nautica Will. My name is Nautica Williams. I have been entrusted with the dream archives of you and Astro. These dreams are collectively named Breathing on the Moon, Choose Abolition and Liberation. These archives take place all over the world during the post-abolition era, hundreds of years after Abolition Day.
As you're orienting into the dream tank, you should be able to breathe even though we're breathing on the moon. So continue to have your dream simulator next to you and have the audio up so you can hear the dream archivist from Nautica as we explore this future on the moon.
You can only mutter a question regarding why? How am I here? Why are we all here? The astronaut ponders. But maybe now's not the best time to be existential. You are here, and you are here now. Perhaps there's another question you want to ask. I'm probably an astronaut. If that matters, call me Astro. You can only mutter a question regarding why? How am I here? Why are we all here? The astronaut ponders. But maybe now's not the best time to be existential. You are here, and you are here now. Perhaps there's another question you want to ask. Good point. The astronaut jumps and almost flies over to you. Isn't this wild? I know I'm probably not the best at explaining anything, but the world's different from how you remember it. It's been generations since 2020. I can explain a little bit, but it'll be better to check out different places on Earth to see what really changed. Unless you have any questions you want to ask me right now. Is there anything you want to ask? Good point. The astronaut jumps and almost flies over to you. Isn't this wild? I know I'm probably not the best at explaining anything, but the world's different from how you remember it. It's been generations since 2020. I can explain a little bit, but it'll be better to check out different places on Earth to see what really changed. Unless you have any questions you want to ask me right now. Is there anything you want to ask?
We have three options. You can choose option A. What year is this? How old are you? Option B. How am I on the moon? How am I breathing? Or option C. What's so different about the world? And moving forward, we'll ask you, since some folks are having some issues with the poll, to drop your answer in the chat function, option A, option B, or option C.
It's hard to believe some stuff used to be normal. Things like the police, or ICE, or prison have been abolished for hundreds of years. People fought to defund institutions that criminalized people instead of repairing and healing the harm they've done. The world had to reimagine safety for Black and Brown communities and then act on that vision. Our ancestors invested in new alternative solutions to keep everyone safe and healthy.
The Dream Tank is offering to unlock one of the dreams that's emerging in front of you. If you focus on the children, you'll hear a piece of their story. Focus on their eyes using the dream simulator on Archive.
Since the last institution went extinct, most of the people celebrate that victory with the holiday, Abolition Day. The astronaut walks up to you to make sure they face you. I know you'll go back to your time soon, but for now, you can see how the world could be after Abolition Day. Is this something you're ready to explore?
You have three options. Yes, I am ready to explore this possibility, A. B, I think so, I can try. Or C, no, but I wish I could. You have 30 seconds before the Dream Tank will simulate the responses based on what you decide. A few more seconds before the Dream Tank simulation will move forward. And it looks like we are ready to explore this possibility.
Good. Let's get started. The astronaut nods at you. Nice. Also, just in case, call me Astro. Now, let's pick up where we're going. Astro holds out their hands, revealing colorful energy orbs that hover in their palms. You can count the basic colors that illuminate in front of you. You wonder, what is that? Reimagining the world isn't limited to the cliche ideas of what's already been done. These orbs offer realms to brainstorm and explore real or far-fetched possibilities. Astro tells you, I don't believe liberation is a far-fetched idea. I don't believe it's wrong to dismantle oppressive systems of racism and imperialism, or to rethink our relationship to the land and other people. I think it's hard to do this work alone. And it sucks if it's always a downer. In each orb, you can see various landscapes and cities reflected on the surfaces. Each orb has a new idea to explore. The people on this earth are free. Where do you want to explore?
You see the orbs in front of you. You can choose A, the meadow, B, the city, C, mountains, D, nothing, E, the desert, or F, snow. Or you could just place where you'd like to go. You have 30 seconds to make your decision. As a team, where would you like to go? The meadow, the city, the mountains, nothing, desert, or the snow. To help us out, I'll also include the poll so that we can see the results. As we enter into these new landscapes, based on what you decide, you'll be able to use the Artivive app to activate the dreamscape to see more of what's happening in this new world. You have 10 more seconds to make a decision on where we should go first. Looks like most of us decided to see what's happening in the city. So we'll go there first. Let's see what happens from there.
Within a couple of hours, you can see the city summit. You glance behind you to see the last of the sunset. Nighttime will happen soon, but you reach the summit within a few minutes to spare. You lower your body so you can feel more of the earth. You may not be able to see every little thing across the mountains or the horizon, but from the summit, you can feel every living thing. You are connected to a larger organism, and right now, you are one of the roots that feed and feel every part of the world. Your future descendants will connect to this world. From the mountain, you can see where your descendants will be on this earth. You can catch glimpses of their births, childhoods, and deaths. Everything's going to be okay. There will always be people before and after you, and what you do now will impact the world they live in.
We have an opportunity to make a decision here. Should we stargaze or should we go back into the moon to explore the moon? So option A, stargaze, or option B, explore the moon. You have about 10 more seconds to make your decision. And as you're doing so, you may want to look through the dream simulator to see the dreamscape as it converges. Looks like most of us have chosen to stargaze. Well, let's see what happens.
You explore the moon for a little bit, but there's not much to work with. You jump over craters, but trip over a strange object covered in the dust. Astro rushes over to you and helps you up. You okay? You tripped over a relic. You look down and see the relic mentioned is actually the top of a police car. Not too far, you see the remnants of a police station and equipment half submerged in the debris, wasting away as it should. Astro jumps over and stands on the police station sign. Wow! They even got a whole building up here. Impressive.
We have two options here. We could ask Astro, how did they get a whole building up on the moon? Or we could ask, did they build a police station up here? So option A, how did they get a whole building up on the moon? Or option B, did they build a police station up here? You have a few seconds to make your decision, and we'll see what happens next. It looks like most of us decided to ask, did they actually build a police station up here? Let's see what happens.
What? No way. It was because of the events in 2020, people were pushed to the point where many realized we didn't need the police, especially because it's a racist institution used.
Oh, looks
What
like
a
we had an
rude
issue with the
question to
dream tank.
ask.
Hold on one
It's
moment.
only been a few hundred years since 2020. To maintain oppressive power. They didn't. What a rude question to ask. It's only been
Looks
a
like we're
few
having a
hundred
little
years
issue
since
with the dream
2020.
tank. Sorry about that. I want to stop the screen share. We'll try one more time. Thank you for being patient.
Especially because it's a racist institution used to maintain oppressive power. They didn't build it here. They banished the police station by rocket ship. The rocket fuel was completely renewable and zero waste.
You have three more options. What would you like to do next? We could destroy the relics, A, B, recycle and build something new, or C, send a message back. So we'll relaunch the poll, and you could share what you'd like to do also on the chat. Looks like the answer is let's rebuild and recycle to make something new. Let's see what happens. Looks like we ran into a little bit of interference. Maybe we need to go back to the dream tank. Seems like the dream tank is inviting us to dream deeper, to build beyond what we just saw. So as we return, remember that these dream simulations are also available for you to explore. There are many different scenarios that we could continue to look towards and build, including what happens in the meadows, what happens in the snow, what happens when we start talking with others who are there, ancestors and descendants who are there with us in that dream scenario. So as we're coming back to the main dream tank, I invite you to take a deep breath and exhale. Take another deep breath as we return to the dream tank and exhale. And on this third one, breathe in a breath of gratitude for the ancestors who uploaded their memories of Abolition Day and invited us to explore the world around us with choice and consent. Breathe in and exhale. We're going to explore more dreams from the fellow Dream Jolly, and we give our gratitude for Nautica for sharing the dreams of breathing on the moon. We'll introduce each other as fellow Dream Jalia, starting first by sharing a bit of who I am. Not only am I one of the cultural strategists who's engaging with this prototype of the Dream Tank, I'm also a dream archivist, and I'm entrusted with the story from Memories of Abolition Day with The Way the Fireflies. It's an interesting story from Mama Azili and all of her descendants, going 7 generations forward into time, the time in which Abolition Day began, and in the immediate aftermath of Abolition Day. Next, we'll hear from Dante, another of the Dream archivists. He'll introduce himself as well.
Hi, I'm Dante, and I have been entrusted with the dream of Mirage, what recalls the story of what led to what happened in the aftermath of Abolition Day.
Thank you, Dante, and thank you for being one of our Dream Jolly. We'll also hear from Lisa Bates, who is joining us as one of our Dream Jolly. Lisa.
Hello, I'm the Dream Archivist of the Albina Zone in Portland, Oregon, 2036, 15 years after abolition and the Black community in America's whitest city, entrusted with the dreams of Tasha, a teenager who's trying to understand her story as she begins to reject the management of liberation dreams.
You heard from Nautica, who was the Dream Jolly of Breathing on the Moon. And we're seeing the amazing interpretations of these reimagined memories as dreams from the dreamscapes of Amir Khadar. And we give our gratitude for Amir for designing the art that will be engaged with the Artivive Dream Simulator. And we're also joined by our fellow Dream Jolly, Amber. Amber, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Amber. I am entrusted with the dream of Makeba. It's a story really about children, plants, and regrets after Abolition Day. It goes into ideas about what we do when we build a new world and what we do when we dream. There's my video.
Good to see you. Thank you for all the Dream Jolly who are engaging with us, and thank you for experimenting with us in this Dream Tank. Again, Make sure you do have the simulator through the Artivive app on a second device. And if you have any questions, we'll make sure that one of us from the Dream Tank can support you if there's any issues that are coming up. So with that, we invite you to build with us and to dream with us and experience these stories. Again, the Dream Tank activates when you ask it a 7-word question that engages your intention and your purpose for how you are being entrusted with these dreams and these stories and the memories of Abolition Day. So we'll start with this first question. Who had been dreaming of Abolition Day? Take a deep breath as you breathe in the intention of this question and exhale. Take another deep breath and exhale. And take this last deep breath, focusing deeply on that question, and exhale. As the dream take activates, we're able to see the next dreamscape emerge.
We overcame their nights by fire, poured into streets with spewing heat, igniting a fallen sky, tequila sunset. Because there was nowhere to hide, all souls and soil purged together. We knew this day would come. We've prayed and waited, murky waters aside, bloated babies and charred bones, craving the taste of this jubilee. Peaceful protesting stirred a war cry, holding signs while kneeling down, only gotten a shot, jailed, or vanished. There was no way around it. With no justice, peace escapes us. America, an evil child born rotten, bursting with a belly of flies, only had a taste for killing. Out of options and nothing left, price of our freedom was death. We overcame their nights by fire, carried our weight with bleeding knuckles through the flames, seeking to redeem. We knew this day would come. Leaping over ashes of Mount Rushmore, my heart makes noise within me. Heavy sounds pulling for new tears, to submerge earth a holy baptism, forsaking seedless vines of strange fruit for an endless bite out of heaven. With parched lips, we sit numb. Sun and moon cover their eyes. Untying our souls, we mourn deeply. Our tears walk on the wind. In prayer, we uplift the dead, remembering each soul precious and unique as black sand kissing the sea. Iron yokes removed and tables turned, though memories of what happens haunts. We knew this day would come. We overcame their nights by fire.
Thank you, Jolly Dante, for giving us a glimpse into the mirage and remembering that on Abolition Day, that there were those who overcame by fire. Our next story is The Way the Fireflies. You're invited to explore this dreamscape with me as I've been entrusted with the memories of Mama Azili. Mama Azili included a family that spanned 7 generations that led right up into the Abolition Day, with little Pearlie and her great grandson. It's there that I pick up this story that was based in Montgomery, Alabama, on the Alabama River known as Gun Island Chute, where a ceremony took place to make sure that all the beloveds of Mama Azili's family was cared for and protected, if by light, if by water, and if necessary, by fire, so that we could always follow our freedom in the way the fire flies. The fire flies like prayers on the canvas of freedom dreams, etched to memories by callous fingertips on palms, hands up and knees bent, like the way our grandmamas' mamas used to pray. The fire flies like her hums of hymns and profane proverbs, spoken in the same breath, with power so resolute that even the whispering moon fades in reverent silence, speaking only to say her name. The fire flies like the rage of her joy, dancing as shadows with night, as flames with smoke. This time the fire is her drum. The fire flies like her wildest dreams, born of truth and ash, as she sings. Bless these waters, bless this night, bless our fire, bless our night. Young Nia jumped out of bed with standing ovations of snaps. Ali clasped his hands together with the prayer hands and received her appreciation with returning the love. Bless, bless, bless. I love you, baby Nia. Now it's time to go to bed. Okay, but, Nia whispered, putting extra energy in that pouty face. But, what? Her Uncle Ali teased. Not but, and. Nia's face lit up. And I want more. I want you to tell me the story about the story. Ali paused again. He knew this question was coming because she asked for it every time he performed this poem. And yet, there he stood, frozen in his thoughts, trying to figure out how even to respond to this request without breaching the emotional levee he so defiantly guarded himself whenever she would inevitably ask him about this poem. How could he tell her about one of the most dangerous and most surreal nights of his life? One that felt like it could have been his last, if not for the miracle. Ali thought to himself, I don't want to be the one to have to give her the talk about policing at this age. She still sleeps with a damn nightlight. Is she even ready? Ali stopped himself in the middle of his tracks of his own train of thoughts with a moment of humbled awareness. He was just as afraid to tell his story as he was for her to hear it. Was he ready to relive it again? And even if he could, how would he finesse it to a 5-year-old to understand? He decided to stall. Hey, let me ask you this though. You ask me that every time I do that poem, and you know that you ask me that question and I respond to you the same way, maybe when you're older. Ali sucked his teeth with faint indignation as he pointed to her. See, you knew my response. So why are you going to go and ask me that? Why you want to hear the story about the story so bad? Because I only know Gigi Pearly through your stories, he shrugged. Damn, you had to go there, huh? Ali sat quietly. Ooh, you cussed, Lil Nia teased. Oh, womp womp. Ali always imitated a trombone whenever he made a verbal slip. My bad, baby Nia. Well, ain't nothing I haven't already heard before anyway, she proclaimed defensively, not wanting him to think she couldn't handle a grown folks story, as she called it. We'll both pretend we didn't hear what we just heard, but either way, just need to warn you, the story is yeah, it's pretty intense. It's damn near unbelievable. Too intense and unbelievable for me, but I like make-believe, she said, containing her excitement for both the story setup and that Ali's second cuss word clearly just demonstrated a new level of trust with her. Well, yeah, but for me too. And it's my story. Well, my story and Gigi Pearly's, and well, yours, and you deserve to hear it. But can I trust you with my story? Will you believe me and keep my secret? Ali asked in a low, serious tone. Wallahi, Nia said, matching his energy with her hand over her heart. All right, well, that's good enough for me. So here goes nothing and everything. Have I ever told you the story of how fireflies saved my life the night you were born? What? No, tell me, Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me, Nia exclaimed as she waved her hands uncontrollably with excitement. Just as he was readying himself to speak, Ali's trauma flashes began to kick in, amplifying everything. How his breath was getting shallow, palms getting sweaty, heart getting heavy. He began to drift. It was 2014 all over again in his mind. The truth is, well, Gigi Pearly, she's magic. He said plainly and slowly, looking directly in her crescent-mooned amberstone eyes. And so are you. Nia fell silent, not having ever seen her uncle look or sound this way before. You were born early. I don't even know that sis went into labor since I was out. But on my way home, I was pulled over, well, more like surrounded and almost arrested or worse. For what? What happened? DWB, driving while black, in the wrong place, at the wrong time. How rude. Where was that? Where wasn't it? He thought before answering. Right here in town, on the east side. Oh, Nia replied, knowing exactly what that meant. I went directly into defense mode, turned on all my lights, slightly cracked my window, put down my phone, and kept my wallet and registration on the dashboard. And that's when I noticed it was 11:13 p.m. Hey, that's the exact time I was born. I know, and I'll never forget it. 11:13 p.m. I'll never forget it because that's also the exact moment. He paused as he gulped. The moment that those half dozen troopers circled my beat up car, guns drawn, ready to blast. Babakuya, no, Pearlie said emotionally, almost tearfully. She reached for his hand. What happened? They were ready to blast until my radio blast and Gigi Pearlie's prayer song. It came on. It's crazy because she sang that prayer to me, our mamas, our cousins, and all us children when we were born. Bless these waters. Bless this night. Bless our fire. Bless our light. I know it sounds crazy, but like, I haven't heard her pray those words in like hella years. But in that moment, I swear on everything that I love, I heard her voice like she was singing through my car speakers. I heard her clear as the night, and they heard it too. The ones who are trying to hurt you and take you away? Nia asked. No, whispered Ali as he continued to flash back. The fireflies. Invite you to take a deep breath as we go back into the dream tank. And that was The Way the Fireflies. And the next story that we will hear is from the Albina Zone. And I'll share the dream tank in just a moment.
As I trudged up the stairs at AZ High, I thought I saw a flicker out of the corner of my eye at the empty stone base that used to have a statue of Thomas Jefferson sitting on it. Was that yelling part of the song? I took out the earbuds to join my BFFs on the steps. Listen to this one. I skipped ahead to a track by an artist called KLJ and turned it way up so we could share the earbuds among all three of us. Over the music, I could hear some girls' voices, and one so loudly it started drowning out the music. But I only had one earbud in, so maybe they were nearby. I looked up curiously. I hadn't seen anyone else out here, and there wasn't anyone else out on the steps. I blinked at the statue base. Could they be behind it? Some weird acoustics. Because I could clearly hear this voice proclaiming, I will be the crazy black girl, and I will carry it with pride. I'm sorry I'm so radical that I believe that we're all equals. What is this, a poetry reading? I thought as it went on. And I'm sorry that I tear the weak bindings of your system because I believe in education. And no, not this institution we send our children to now. Other girls' voices were yelling, "Yo, girl, you're gonna kill it, yes." I still didn't see anyone. I craned my neck around and out of the corner of my eye, and I saw a tall brown girl in a head wrap, and what looked like 3 or 4 more around her. And wait, what? I could have sworn I also saw the statue? I blinked harder and it was gone. Kendra was standing up, extending her hand to me. "Okay, Earth to Tasha, we gotta go. This music is great. We've got the naming committee." When the Albina Trust took over the governance of our zone, everyone agreed that we shouldn't have a school named after a slave owning, raping president. But this renaming thing has gone on forever, years. We've been on the youth committee since 9th grade, and sometimes it seems like there's no way we're going to have it named when we graduate next year. But we finally gotten it down to the Vanport Resilience or Michelle Obama Senior High School. When this brand new teaching fellow comes out of nowhere, and even after her totally humiliating start, jumped in to just ask some questions about how we centered the voices, I couldn't even listen anymore. The impatience and frustration was just bubbling up inside of me. "We've been doing this forever, and you can't even tell us what this whole process includes. There's an organization chart for 17 different committees. It takes up more than 3 sheets of paper, and I still can't figure out who actually decides anything at all around here." The trust teaching fellow was saying, "Okay, okay, we need to consider a trauma-formed approach." While Miss Garner, our teacher, was shaking her head, declaring her disappointment and my desire to violate our collective safe space. But honestly, I was just not having it. I picked up my stuff and stomped over to the doorway and turned around at the last moment to yell, "WTF is a resilience?" I stormed out of the building, and by the time I got to the street, my adrenaline had stopped pumping, and I realized I was going to be in trouble. I would probably get booked into a few weeks of after school sessions with one of the trust teen trauma specialists, daily supervised meditation, and God knows how many 101 and group reconciliation sessions with everyone on the naming committee. As I trudged down the street, I just got madder at myself because they were also definitely going to call my mom. My mom is usually gone way before I'm ready to leave in the morning and doesn't come home until late at night. Her commute is super long because she has to pass through the AZ exit checkpoint. She wears like 7 different badges around her neck and has papers in the glove box because she never knows when she'll get asked for proof of employment. But by the time I got home, I had completely forgotten about the whole waiting for my mom to have heard about my episode of school and basically on my life. When I busted into the kitchen, my mom was sitting there. Damn, it was really early. She must have left work. Oh no, she was totally stone faced and gestured to the chair opposite hers. "Tasha, I had to leave my job 2 hours early today after receiving a phone call from your teacher. That's not what I expect to have to do." I didn't know what to say. Why hadn't I prepared better for this? "Mom, let me explain. I've already done my apology." And she cut me off. "Whatever they've required you to do it double. You need to be impeccable. You've never been on a reconciliation list before, and I will not have my daughter." I interrupted her. "Yeah, I know, Mom. Your daughter will not be on any list of any kind. No conflicts, no talkback. Do what you have to do and never even think about it. I get it. You don't want me to question anything. You just want me to do what everyone tells me." "You need to sit down, young lady," she warned. "No, you know what? I'm sick of this. It's like living with." I was so angry my whole body felt like it was on fire. "It's like you're a cop." As soon as I said it, I knew I'd gone way, way too far.
As we begin to return back to the dream tank, inviting you to take another series of 3 breaths. Keep thinking about what is your most irresistible freedom dream. And we turn to our next dream jolly of Amber.
The prisoners knew the risks and had consented, or so we kept telling ourselves. We said things like, 1 second of freedom is worth more than 100 eternities in chains. And we had gotten their consent. But we hadn't accounted for the children in the tower below. We hadn't assessed the architecture nor the function of the towers. We didn't know much about them, honestly. Even before the tower exploded, the plants knew of our plans. They've been listening in on Mama Leba's conversations and the conversations that happened before her and the conversations happening even before then. Plant memory is what early Macabeans secretly injected in themselves to fight off the forget. But that is another story. Not all of the plants were in agreement about saving the children, and some maintained their own contingency plans, but most were committed to what they called the Great Breakout. Of the 2,082 children accounted for during the last tower census, 169 survived. It is unclear exactly how the plants saved the children. I've gotten as close as I can with one of the old ones, Silas, who will not say more than, before each child was wrapped in vines, we built a bubble and placed them inside. Then they were free. Plants do not trust humans. They've seen too much of what we can do. It took 3 days for the towers to complete their burn sequence. It is August 2163 when the last saved child dies, a week before the rains come. 100 years with us and they never give their names. I was tasked as head nurturer or historian, a distinction that is only asked for in your language. These are my notes, so let us pretend I am both and neither. Each saved child screamed silently when they were awake and loudly as they slept. Early on, we built an impossibly large bed to fit their needs, and initially they buzzed to it. We called it the hive, but eventually they were repulsed by each other and spaced out in rest areas, not unlike the pods they grew up in. Community members rotated roles, hugging, rubbing, watering, and shushing the saved children to sleep. They were well fed and invited to attend school, the latter of which they all emphatically denied. We keep a ledger of all the good things we've done here, all the times we've saved them from each other, especially with the littlest ones having a taste for poisonous things. They all died the same though, crouching, feet arched to run, arms above the rest of their body in a protective position. Those of us that were assigned to investigate their deaths found that the combined lack of sun exposure, touch, community, and ritual had ultimately caused a fracture in their bodies, also known as heartbreak. As I said, we kept a ledger of all the good we've done. When one of the saved children smiled, we counted it as a victory. But before they died, we built a collaborative program that collected their wishes after realizing that we had never been safe, possible places for them. Our cultural memories and plant knowledge melded together and highlighted what the saved children wanted most in the world: to be buried with grace, as their siblings had not, for us to promise them that this would never happen again. With the plant's assistance, we tracked each birther down, even the birthers of the children who were not saved. Milena, Silas and I's daughter, led the procession. Those who no longer lived in the city organized their own ceremonies. Milena's blue-black skin called energy from the sun. Her long purple dreads were covered in red moss and crackling, her gold anklet sending sparks to every ankle wearer across the globe. We would all feel this loss. Young children marked the streets and subway stations and back roads and roads with no names and loose dirt and kitchen floors and movie theaters and cars and parks and couches and gardens with black X's, marking each life that was stolen in the before and after wars. 6 billion X's in every corner of the earth. So many in some spots that had the satellite survived, they'd be seen from space. Milena gathered the mucilage from behind her ears, rubbed her hands together, producing an ever-growing green ball, and threw it to every nearby person, a signal that it was time. Papaya drums beat throughout the circle. Boom, boom, boom. Each X tapped at every point. A quick burst of pressure opened the earth and turned it into a wide, needy mouth mumbling prayers. Eagles from every sect placed marigold seeds in the middle of each X as dancers sashayed into the circle. We all rejoiced. We said our regrets out loud. We promised to do better. And still, when the young girls removed their moss wraps and whispered for their dreads to go abuzz, and those dreads started rotating like helicopter rotor blades at the same time, we breathed in sadness too. When they flew up to the rooftops with their rifles, making sure that no one disturbed this moment, some of us wondered if they too would be killed for the promise of a world they would never get to set foot in. The men on the streets ushered everyone in, doubling as security monitors. But it is the children above and below that taught us what it means to reclaim a block. Before me, none of us said a word about the lost children. We openly mourned the loss of the supply chains, but we could not bring ourselves to talk about the fact that we allowed the children to be taken in the first place, nor that 1,916 of them died this time. With help from the plants, we thought if we could save them, perhaps we could make up for the ways we've ravaged each other. Perhaps we could learn again that revolution is not a land grab. It does not necessitate sacrificing those we think are already irredeemable. It does not necessitate sacrificing those we already think are irredeemable. I write in this journal so that we remember regret, so that it hangs heavy and close in our hearts, so that it may never happen again. We said anything for the revolution. We made plans and promises to stick by them no matter what, but not this. We didn't blow up those towers to then do what those people in them have done to us. Where was I? Ah, yes. Every place is a graveyard. This is something everyone must know. But there is also sun and blood and water and history. We must take all the things we know and rebuild them. Makeba was not the first village to blow up the police towers. The work continues. Just last Tuesday, Akumba residents successfully threw every free-flying surveillance camera from the sky. Language is like that. It tries its best, but in the end, there is never quite anything to describe the brutality of the world. There is now a photograph with all of us in it. It holds our past, present, and future memories. If we listen closely enough, we'll be able to travel through them to a place in which we are all here, free.
So we return back into the dream tank. I invite you to take another 3 deep breaths. Breathing in the stories that you've heard, breathing in the questions that you may still have, and breathing in the abundance of possibility as we return to the dream tank. There are other stories that can be explored within the dream tank experience of the memories of Abolition Day. There are other Jolly who shared the stories that they've been entrusted with across time, including the Jolly known as Sean Taylor, who talks about tending the acre, a reparations conversation among community right after Abolition Day. There's the Jolly known as Aize Jama Everett, who tells the story of the Keening, a celebration of Abolition Day, in which community members sing songs of the names that must be remembered, of the names that must be remembered through time, and yes, even through space. And the Dream Jolly, Walida Imarisha, who shares the story of Rememory, another dream that engages in the restoration of memories across time, remembering that we are enough and we are abundant, and accepting that we have a duty to fight, to win, and to protect those that we've been entrusted with even after Abolition Day, because there are still territories, lands, people, relationships that wish to be liberated and are dreaming irresistible freedom dreams, even after following through the portal known as abolition. So as we return to the dream tank, I invite the other Jolly to come back to the screen with me. And as we are engaging in the questions that we explored in the Dream Tank, we invite you to ask us questions. Ask us questions that may have come up in the stories that you've heard and the dreams that you were exploring. Perhaps it's stories that you want to explore through the images and the dream simulator itself. But we invite the audience and those who are participating in the Dream Tank to submit your questions. Maybe it's a 7-word question of your own that you would like to ask. But we open up now to the questions that you can drop into the chat to ask about any of the artifacts, or the archives of stories that we explored together. And to get us started, I will ask the fellow Dream Jolly to respond to this question. When you said that you were entrusted with someone's dream, whose dream were you sharing in the stories that you shared with all of us? Whose voice were you hearing as you were capturing this story? And was there like a particular character in mind that you were following in this journey of Memories of Abolition Day? For me, it was Mama Izili, who was an elder who lived through 1919 and herself saw the remnants of the Red Summer, and knew that there would be a time in the next 100 years where a time of pandemics of violence and of viruses and all of the ways in which that impacted her family would emerge. And that there would be times that a prayer would need to be conjured to protect. And so the prayer that was in protection was the prayer to conjure the butterflies that would transport people in the ways of love and protection to a safe haven, so that not another person from her bloodline would be lost to anything like the Red Summer of 1919. So for my dream archive, I thought much of Mama Izili. So opening it up to the other Dream Jolly, who might have been a particular ancestor or character that you were exploring in your story, and their lessons for abolition.
I can go first. So I actually, the voices were kind of multi-dimensional, and also multi-generational. But for my story, there's a character called Mama Leba, and she is someone who worked in. So I referenced the towers in the story, but she's someone who worked in the re-education towers, which was below the prison towers before they blew up. And she was someone who was a social worker, essentially, with the children who were separated out. And she was also the only person in the community who went to the council to try to get the children out of the towers. And so her voice was like super present and very much inspired by my late grandmother, Audrey. And then also I heard a lot of the children's voices and then the plant voices as well. So it was just like multifaceted.
So
Oh, you can go.
I was thinking a lot about young people, and thinking about like my own evolution as a young person, and sort of starting to find out the backstory of in my family, and also collectively in community, what happens when young people haven't um, been transmitted all of the stories of the ancestors, and um, how beginning to see them helps them to understand kind of where we are, where we've gotten to, but also thinking a lot about being inspired by young people's movement building and vision for the future, and wanting to explore how within our families and our communities we can um, become reconnected to memory and collective history, so that we can imagine forward more effectively.
My piece, Mirage, I was speaking as if I was hearing this story from an elder who also could be named Mirage. This being who have ascended to this place of all knowing or just foreseeing what is to come and looking at the circumstances that we've lived through in the past. And each time that each era reached a particular point, the necessary like turning of the tables has to happen. And in this, he's recalling the story of like, we knew that this day would come. For those of us who have been here or seen this or studied the patterns, it's like we knew this day would come, and it's going to take fire. And fire could mean to destroy or to rebuild, to rebirth, to refine, to put something, to try something through fire, and the best parts of it comes out, knowing that it's going to hurt a little bit. And how to deal with the process of refinement. And it's like remembering at the end, it's like those who we've lost during this process who unfortunately, due to the circumstances, wasn't necessarily able to make it through that fire process. And so it's like to remember the process of what it took to get here. And just to keep reminding ourselves, like we knew that this day would come and we overcame it though. We knew it would come and we overcame it. So just speaking from this elder's perspective of this illusion of a mirage, but him having this foreseeing of what may look like, but it's not really, and it's a little bit further and deeper than that. So, yeah.
And I see a question about speaking to the collective creation process, something that we get pretty often about how do these stories emerge and also how do they converge. The stories are indeed on a continuum, looking, as I mentioned, forward and backward into time, but the pivot point is something that happens in the near future called Abolition Day. And this idea that in various parts throughout the country, throughout the world, there were people who declared their sovereignty and liberation and organized their power to remove the institutions and the literal vestiges and artifacts of prison and policing and surveillance, and doing so in a way that opened up opportunities for these places to reclaim their relationship with land, with water, with relationships with each other. And it also spurred a particular series of events where there are those who didn't want to be a part of that. They were known as they're somewhat these separatists, these secessionists who are in favor of the policing culture and systems. And they became later known as the United Confederacy of Freedom because they believed that they were practicing within their freedom, but there was this dissolution of relationships and rebuilding. And so Makeba being one of the places where there was within the borders, within the United Countries of, the United Confederacy of Freedom. And then there's liberated territories like Albina Zone and Gun Island Chute. Freedelphia is the name of one of the places in Rememory. So there's these places that began to emerge that also express their ways of being in new relationships with each other as liberated territories and peoples, the rematriation of the land as some of the stories references, and also how that abolition again as a portal to build ways of being with each other, governance and relationships, but remembering that there's still something that needs to be healed and restored, and that the question of can any of us say that we're really free and liberated if not all of us are. And so the relationships between even the liberated territories and the folks who are beloveds who are still on the other side of borders within the United Confederacy of Freedom. So that storyline is also there. But this Dream Tank experience allows you to look at the stories across time and across the continuum And I want to invite the other dream archivists and the dream jolly to, yeah, kind of say where their dreams were situated in relationship to Abolition Day. We mentioned it at the beginning, but given that part of the backstory of this near future that goes for Nautica, it's a couple hundred years into the future where you're able to do time and dimension travel and through space, through dream space, to explore the ways in which our future ancestors and descendants are living their best lives and abundant lives. But other stories have a different time and space proximity to it. So maybe we could start with you, Amber, where your story was situated across its relationship to Abolition Day, and why you chose that to be the archive that you were entrusted with.
Sure. So my story starts ish, like, because mine also kind of weaves time and place as well, but it starts in 2163. So my timeline is further out, whereas like Dante's and Lisa's are, you know, beginning, middle. But I think one of the questions that we were also very clear about in our creation and collaboration process too was that with abolition, it doesn't mean that you know, everything is all good. There, even after abolition, it isn't a utopia, and so we wanted to offer the nuance and the complexities within that. And so, yeah, my story is 2163, but there's also a bunch of like history that is weaved into that because with the re-education towers, those have existed for about 100 years, which is below the prison.
So my story is exploring in a shorter term future, and I was really inspired by a lot of the conversation we had about place and how different places will move into abolition futures differently, and thinking about Portland as a city that tends to assimilate and kind of co-opt um, even revolutionary impulses, and how many iterations it takes for us to really break out of that. And thinking about if we had an abolition in the short term, how would that get kind of co-opted and managed, and need to be renewed, and that spirit to be renewed, so that we could keep doing abolition as a verb. So kind of in this shorter term future.
Originally, when I was listening to a lot of the other stories as they were unfolding, it was like trying to figure out what my timeline would be. And so I decided to write mine like shortly after Abolition Day, assuming in the conversation that it was like, all right, let's say it's 2020 or at the closing end of 2020, the very near future. So it's like, all right, I wanted to start from there. And then as I started to write and try to keep in mind other folks' story, how it goes back and forth, I wanted to write Mirage as a piece of it can be told throughout each generation. Like this story that's just been passed down, like we knew that this day would come, like a prophecy almost. Like this day is going to come. Right now, it feels like some of the prophecy has been fulfilled, but it's still some other parts that's not fulfilled yet. And so that way it can almost like be interchangeable through whatever period, as like when Abolition Day comes, you can then recall this story like, oh, this has been the prophecy that's been passed down throughout these generations. And I was thinking about America, but it also could be like America as we know it is no more, and now we are in a different place, and it's like recalling like this experience in America. Like America, you was an evil child born rotten with a belly full of flies, but we had to leave that place, and now that property. So for those who are still in America, it's like, all right, we still here experiencing that, but when it's abolished, then it's like, the prophecy is fulfilled. So it's like it started off in the beginning, and then as I was writing, I was trying to write it as like it can be told throughout generations.
Yeah, and I think for me it was exploring how prayer could be a technology for time travel. So I had this, many sayings and through various cultural traditions about how um, our ancestors prayed for this moment, or this is their wildest dreams, right? And I also thought about how if we were to think of prayer on the continuum of time, that why can't I also send prayers back, right? And do my part to say for that moment that they needed, knowing what has happened, that my prayers for their strength, their fortitude, their protection, their love, because I need that for me and for them and for moving forward. And what are the and I ask myself often, not knowing that 2020 would emerge the way that it did, where I asked myself, what are the stories, the songs, the prayers that my great grandmother was taught that brought her through when she was seeing what was around her. And this year has been one of the most challenging for all the many reasons. Actually, right before this project started, my stepdad, the dad who raised me, passed, and I was on the edge of whether or not I would even uh, do the project, because it was hard to imagine being speculative or visionary or in this space. But then I started asking the question of, well, what does it mean to restore and to mourn in the container of joy, knowing that there's rituals of mourning and remembrance, and what would be the prayers I would want to send back. And so I went into a whole deep dive into family trees and stories, and came across something I had no idea. Long story short, I lived in Montgomery, Alabama as a teenager. Um, and that's where my stepdad's family and kinfolk are. We're going generations deep, as far as back as they can trace. And literally, one of my great uncles was an archivist for the state and was able to do the family lineage. And come to find out that on my side, my paternal side, the Williams family also had some roots at one point in Alabama. So going back 100 years from where I was there as a teenager, going back 100 years, there's a storyline that exists where my family line through my paternal side and my stepdad's side cross paths, and we're walking those same lands, and probably in places sharing the same prayers of protection during 1919, during the Red Summer and all of that. So I started thinking like, oh, what if this relationship that me and my stepdad had was actually a fulfillment of prophecy or a fulfillment of prayer, that we were guard each other's families through time, and what that could look like moving forward. And so that's what emerged in my story, was this prayer for protection that goes across time, that's rooted in a deep love of wanting to make sure that all who are entrusted in your care are enveloped in care, in which case it was the fireflies that circled around and protected from, like, the fireflies being like, responding to bullets, responding to the police lights, responding to all the different things that would transport you back home. So yeah, that's what happened in my story there. I think we're actually coming up, speaking of time, we're coming up on our time. I do want to share that we do have some ways that you can continue to engage in this story and the storytelling process. This is a world that we co-created together, but it's really a world that we want all of you to share in. So if you want to contribute your 7-word story or 7-word question, you can share it on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you can use a hashtag that it gets captured, using the hashtag Abolition Archives. I'll place it in the chat, Abolition Archives. And that way we can continue to talk about these archives of the future, and ways in which our stories continues to build this new mythology, or as Sean Taylor talked about it, as a revolutionary text that we're co-creating and authoring together. And there's also a way for all of you to engage with all the images. So you saw some of the images here. And we didn't get a chance to go through all the different scenarios, but there's all of these different scenarios that we could explore. So in the choice game, it's actually online, where you can explore the different choices. These are just different visuals that go to different parts of the story. And for all of the stories, as I mentioned, they have art that was created by Amir Khadar that is brought to life, as it were, as like a dream archive. If you use Artivive and look at the stories on screen and engage with the stories through the written word, you can still have it as almost as like an augmented reality pop-up book. So definitely want to give big ups to Amir Khadar, and I'm going to drop the link for where you can download for free the entire anthology. It's hosted at the Big We, so we want to give big props to the Big We and our production partner, PolicyLink, who really supported us in bringing us together to do a world building session, to do a deep dive around these stories and create this world that initially started as, well, what if the 1994 crime bill never existed? And that was such a contingent and pivotal question that we wanted to explore from the broadest possible horizon that we could contain that question among many, many others that opened up. So not only the what will we say no to, but what are we saying yes to? And so this is an exploration of yes to abolition through time, through space, and through the stories of brilliant, beautiful, amazing Black creatives. So that's why we have this as part of the story series, Black Freedom Beyond Borders, Memories of Abolition Day. You can check it out at www.thebigwe.com/abolition day. It's free to download. You can read it through the Dream Tank experience like we prototyped today, or you can do it with the Rememory experience, which you can just bounce around to the different stories and across time with the reader's guide that helps you track where the stories are in relationship to Abolition Day. So I want to open it up to the fellow Dream Jolly to see if there's any closing words before we close out. So I'll start with Amber and we'll take it from there. Any last words from our Dream Jolly?
I'm just really grateful to be in this space with y'all. It's been amazing to create and also like put our feelings into, you know, the text, our histories, our families, the work that we're doing, and the hope that we have for this world, because we got this.
Thank you, Amber. How about you, Lisa?
Yeah, likewise, very grateful to have participated in this. It's been quite a year, and the on the street every day, up to the eyeballs in it, kind of organizing and advocacy and teaching, and can feel like it's not going very far, even though we're making strides like we've never conversations we've never had before. But to be able to just float up out of that and travel to literally to the moon, it just opens up so much space for the imagination. So I hope people will be able to join with us in that spirit.
If I could say anything, it would be just once again humbly just grateful to have the opportunity to share space with amazing artists, writers, storytellers, thinkers, organizers, etc. Definitely a privilege to be able to participate in the imagination of what would it look like to have Black freedom beyond borders, and how to manifest that not just in word but in action. And I guess the last words I would say is like freedom is a state of mind and a state of being, and it manifests in action. So just keep thinking about that and keep feeling like that and keep creating in that spirit. Freedom beyond borders. Yeah.
All right, ashe to all of that. To all of you, thank you. Thank you for creating with us, for experimenting with us, for experiencing with us, and invite you to be collaborators and conspirators of this world building for Abolition Day. Looking forward to how we build together and what the future will bring for us and what we can bring for that future. So thank you again. And thank you to Imagining America for giving us the opportunity to experience the Dream Tank. Thank you all.